we have received the hopeful news that a ceasefire has been agreed starting from 7 a.m. tomorrow. And this is a glimpse of hope, and we very much want that to hold, and working towards that to hold. Gaza has seen unprecedented levels of suffering, and this is about time that we end this carnage.
You welcome the news, obviously. What about the 150 Palestinian prisoners that are being exchanged for the 50 Israeli hostages? What can you tell us about them?
I'm glad you're mentioning them. Maybe you are the first to mention them. Everybody in the international arena, in the West, the media, is focusing on the 50 Israeli hostages to be released, as they should focus on them, but they are ignoring that the 150 who are to be released are mostly children and have been in Israeli detention before the 7th of October and have been rounded, and I'm talking about hundreds of them. Some of them will be released, children. They've been arrested, rounded in the West Bank, where Hamas has no control, without trial, without charge, without access to lawyers, and without access to their own parents. So those are hostages, and we are absolutely relieved to see our children back to their families, and we hope the rest of our children are going to be released, and it should be unconditional. It's a disgrace that these children have been kept in Israeli prisons for all this long.
What type of age range are we talking about here when we say
14 to 17.
Okay.
And you know international law.
Yeah.
You know the common sense.
Yeah.
These children should never be arrested in the first place. They have different treatment, and they have completely different judicial process. It's unbelievable how Israel has ransacked everything we are familiar with.
I'll deal with the sort of news of the day, and then I want to talk a bit more about the future for, Palestine and for Israel. But the news of the day, another point, is that the director of the Al-Shifa hospital was arrested by IDF forces for questioning. It's been detained by Israeli authorities. They, of course, allege that Hamas was operating within the hospital. The director, they presumably assumed, knew what was going on. They're undertaking that questioning. What does that mean to you?
Just means what we have been following in terms of Israeli actions and retractions later. Israel has claimed that Shifa Hospital is the headquarters of Hamas, that everything is operated from there. As you have seen, they have literally bombarded the hospital. They have killed many in the hospital. Yesterday, there was a mass grave in Gaza to bury all those who died in the hospital. They have even confiscated the corpses of the people they killed. And they have shown us absolutely nothing. Every single piece of spin they have produced over the last few weeks have been absolutely busted.
So the Israeli forces have got these pictures we can show you now, I believe, of what they say were the tunnels underneath the hospital. Various interviewees have talked about the tunnel infrastructure being under there. This is, of course, an Israeli authority side. What do you say to that?
Do you know where this tunnel is? Do you really know where this tunnel is? Have you seen them when they first showed us that there was a bag and there was a machine gun somewhere in the entire hospital? I mean, this farce has gone on for a long, long time. And the Palestinian side has been saying all along, we need international legitimate third party to come and investigate. Come and investigate. Nobody should believe the killers. The killers will never, ever produce evidence against themselves.
Now, that is a claim that's also been levied at the side of Hamas as well. And we've had this, I was talking to Ahmed Al-Nouk from We Are Not Numbers, a Palestinian NGO, a few weeks ago, about this very issue, the information coming from both sides. Both sides are telling other people in the world, people like us, don't believe what Israel is saying, don't believe what Hamas is saying as well. It creates this issue. You've been very outspoken about how you feel Western media has been failing in terms of coverage of the Palestinian plight and the Palestinian issue. What are the main concerns there? Why do you think it happens?
Big concerns, Rosanna. And, I don't want to talk about the horrors that happened in Gaza and all over Palestine, by the way. This is not just Gaza. As we speak, the West Bank is being targeted. The illegal settlers are forming militias. They are being handed machine guns by the terrorist by the name of Ben Gvir. And by the way, I'm not giving him a charge or accusing him. It was an Israeli court that convicted him of terrorism. Now he is the Minister of National Security. The result of him handing machine guns is that we have a rampage now in the West Bank. let's not touch that. You know the numbers, you know how many innocent people have been killed.
The West Bank's effort
You know that
violence.
70% of them in Gaza are women and children. It's all there to be seen. And you also know that this follows the blueprint of ethnic cleansing and genocide, simply because why would Israel be bombarding hospitals using all the excuses? And it wasn't just a Shifa hospital, all hospitals. Why would they be destroying schools and bombarding schools? Why bakeries? Why to cut food, electricity, fuel? Why to devastate the entire infrastructure of Gaza? Why? Because they want to turn Gaza unlivable. That's the aim. And to push 1.7 million people from the north to the south, that's 3 out of every 4 people in Gaza. So in preparation for that pressure cooker to push people towards Egypt and the Sinai. They've done it in 1948, they are doing it again. And the question is, the real question that we need to be focused on now, the consequences of this. Because number one, I think the post-World War II order has been completely undermined in the last few weeks. Because that order was established on 2 ideas. War should not be the first option. Should it be, there are rules for war. I don't need to convince you how Israel has demolished all these rules. But what is more dangerous is that Israel has managed to normalize the mass murder of children, the mass destruction of hospitals, schools, playgrounds, has normalized starving literally people, have normalized the displacement and ethnic cleansing, have normalized the targeting of churches and mosques and worship places, has normalized something that we have completely ended from our dark history as humanity since the 40s. Israel has brought us back to the 30s. And the consequences of that on our humanity, before our human system, I mean legal system, is going to be everlasting. And Israel is dragging the West into this immoral battle.
Dr. Zomlot.
And dragging the streets, dragging the streets of every country in the West into this situation. I think this is a moment when we really need to know and to think seriously. How do we stop this from happening again? That's the most important thing. We must not wait for the next strategy. We must not wait for the next tragedy.
The normalization of the murdering of children, I'm thinking if I was watching this interview and I was Jewish, British Jewish, or even if I was sympathise with Israel or not, and would think about the events of October 7th and the rape and the murder of children and women and civilians that went on, I want to...
Can you compare...
And we have been interviewing, of course, across the shows, representatives from the Israeli government, the Israeli spokespeople who speak almost, a 180 version of what I'm hearing from you here. This is the situation of, Israel-Gaza that has been going on for such a long time, Israel-Palestine. In terms of the way... That's the correct term, Israel-Palestine. In terms of the future then, let's talk more about that. If we can think of an idea post-conflict, which at the moment feels impossible, how do we get to a point where violence isn't so normalised and there can be some sort of governing structure that even a 2-state solution could survive?
Yes, but here's the difference before I move to your question. Can you begin to compare between a militant group that is Hamas and between a state that is recognized by the world and has a seat in the UN? Responsibilities of the 2 sides. This is a non-state actor, that is Hamas, and this is a state actor. Can you begin to compare between unelected and elected government? No, I'm sorry. With such a situation, what Hamas done was not in the name of the Palestinian people. Not all Palestinians are Hamas. But what Israel is doing right now is in the name of every Israeli. Because they have elected such a government. That's number one.
They have elected the government, but the support for Netanyahu and what his forces are doing is not complete across the board in Israel.
They should bring him down then.
And that's what some people would say of Hamas. Fortunately, all we have time for, Dr. Husam Zomlot. Thank you.